to the others when that anniversary comes around. And I also will take this opportunity now to anybody else who is on this call, or 45 participants we have so far and growing. If there's anybody who's celebrating a birthday that they would like to share with us so that we can also extend special greetings to them. Guests or fellow Kiwanians? Key clubbers, anybody? All right, if not, everybody have a positive and blessed week. And I, like everybody else, looks forward to engaging discussion with our guest speaker later on.
How many years, Stephen?
26 years.
Wow, that's great. Congratulations.
That's great.
Congratulations. I almost thought you were going to get him in trouble right there, deals you.
Yeah, you notified me.
You can't forget.
Thank you, VP Stephen.
Yes, you're most welcome.
Are there any apologies for absent at this time? DLG Willie, apologies for absence.
I didn't receive any apologies this evening.
Yes. Okay, we'll move to our Kiwanis education then. Kiwanis education.
Good evening, President. Thank you, President, fellow Kiwanians, SSC members, guests. This evening, I'll talk briefly, of course, about youth protection guidelines, and this was updated October 2021, and the topic is on chaperone. Chaperone is defined as a Kiwanis member, faculty member, parent, legal guardian, 21 years of age or older, who has been approved by the school or agency and registered with the school or agency to accompany the youth members at specific events. Chaperones for overnight. A minimum of one adult per 10 students must be serving as chaperone during the entirety of an overnight event. Chaperones for single-day events will require one adult per 50 students, and they must serve for the entirety of the single-day event. All chaperones participating in single-day event or overnight service leadership program event must have a clear criminal background check done and must have completed Kiwanis International Youth Protection Training. Additionally, chaperones must follow all applicable policies and procedures. That's it for Kiwanis education, President.
All right, thank you, LGE. Thank you. Now we move to our main item of the night, which is exploring reading time versus screen time. And this will be done by Ms. Tanya Batson-Savage, who is a writer, a filmmaker, and a publisher. To do the introduction of the guest speaker, we'll ask VP Earl to do so. VP Earl.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, President Junior.
Yes.
When I was asked to introduce our guest speaker and hearing the topic for tonight, I didn't hesitate. And when I got her biography and also saw her profile picture, I was glad I didn't hesitate. It's my pleasure to introduce her tonight.
Yeah.
Batson-Savage is a writer, filmmaker, publisher, and creative consultant with a love of mangoes. He is the co-founding partner of...
That makes many of us.
He's a co-founding partner of Have a Ball Productions, and it will be interesting to know that this Have a Ball is B-A-W-L, and is publisher and editor-in-chief of the award-winning independent publishing house Blue Banyan Books, which is the fastest growing trade book publisher in the English-speaking Caribbean. and the online magazine Susumba, and its literary offshoot, Susumba's Book Bag. Tanya has written for the page, stage, screen, and radio, and one day she will write a book, a story about a mango. Her love of stories grew while she was seated at her grandmother's feet, where she developed a passion for folk tales that shines through in her first collection of stories of children, Pumpkin Belly. You notice all the topics, they are familiar in our Jamaican environment. And Pumpkin Belly and other stories. It made me look up this song, Pumpkin Belly, to see if I could understand what it really meant. And I'm sure she will tell us a bit of it. I hope she will. Her play, Woman Tongue, and all surveyors know the Woman Tongue tree. We hear it a lot in our ears. Received 8 Actor Boy Award nominations in 2016, and her short film script, Endeavor, earned the Best Award for Best Script in the Kingston Anime Festival in 2013. Her career has crisscrossed the cultural landscape, including cultural policy, teaching cultural criticism, journalism, advertising, and publicity, along with being head cook and bottle washer of the Blue Banyan Books and its imprint Blouse and Skirt books. She has written extensively. Her writing has appeared in the Caribbean Beat, BIM, the Jamaica Journal, the Caribbean Quarterly, Sky Writings. When we used to fly, we would read those magazines, Moods of Jamaica, and Pre-Caribbean Lit magazine. Her film credits include producer and script editor for the animated short films A Shade of Indigo and Agwe. He has been creative consultant with the Ontirochi Festival and Arts in the Park Arts Project. Is the chair of Lignum Vitae Writing Awards and president of the Jamaican Writers Society. She's a fellow of the Calabash International Literary Festival and Cropper Residential Writing Workshops, as well as an inaugural participant of the Film Lab, and earned the JAFTA Porter Screenwriting Fellowship in 2020 and Best Pitch Forward 2022 winner. Fellow Kiwanians and guests, help me welcome our guest speaker tonight, Tanya Batson-Savage.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening. Let me just check. Everyone hearing me clearly?
Yes. I am hearing them
clearly, seeing you clearly and hearing you.
Very
And you have been made a co-host if you want to share your screen.
Okay, all right. I'm hoping I can figure it out because Google has changed its little fandanglings. And so sharing a slideshow apparently has changed recently. So forgive me while I try to fiddle with this.
Yes.
You should see something in green that says share screen.
Yes, it's.
If you click on that, that's the first,
right.
First step.
Yes, it is. It's when I want to do the presentation that I'm worried.
Well,
Right.
we're seeing it now.
It works.
Good.
Well, while this is coming up properly, wait, no. That's not what we want to do. Can't I just play this as a thingy? Sorry, it's been a moment since I presented online, and like I said, it changed. I thought that was the button I needed, and it is.
Yeah, go to slide in the tab. And you should be able to.
Yeah, that's where you used to be able to go, but it's not there.
No, it's right beside where you were original at the top. It says slideshow.
Slideshow?
Touch it. Yes.
Okay.
Touch that. Touch
Yeah,
that.
start from
Pull
beginning.
down that
Start from
drop
Start from the
down.
beginning.
beginning.
Start
Okay.
from the beginning.
And when I get to my third slide, you'll see that. Oh, but it's all right. Oh, okay. So good evening. You've been adequately introduced. In a word, I'm head cook and bottle washer at Blue Banyan Books and Blouse and Skirt Books. You will see from my bio that I am equally fond of the page and the screen. So this conversation is not going to be to all suggest that screen time is bad. It is really to talk about the benefits of reading. And while a lot of what I will say will focus on the benefits of reading for children, it really is the benefits of reading for everybody. And just to take a moment, and this isn't so much for the shameless plug as it is to explain that's why I chose the shot from Blue Banyan Books, which gives a little idea of the different types of books that we create. So we create books for everybody because we believe that everybody should read because reading is fundamental. And I like to say more fun than anything else. That is the critical part of what we need to ensure, that not only should everybody read, all kinds of reading from the screen as well as reading from the page, it should be fun. And that is a part of what I want to talk about and what is a part of what I want to get into. And I was told I had a half an hour. I'm not sure I'm going to take a half an hour because I don't like the idea of talking at people. I like the idea of conversation. So once I get through, and even if I don't get through, you feel there is a question, you want to challenge something I'm saying, please, unless it goes against how your meeting should be run, please feel free to interrupt. And I hope there is somebody who will be watching to know questions, etc. Because, with the presentation mode on, I don't think I'm going to be seeing whose hand is raised, etc. All right, so reading is fundamental. And I thought it would be great to open with a quote from Dr. Seuss. The more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. And I chose Dr. Seuss for one of the critical reasons that we want to talk about, because a lot of times we think kids' books are only for kids, but a good kids' book is for everybody. And it is a part of what we're going to be talking about later. If you pick a book for your child that you can't stand to read, you've probably picked a bad book for your child, but more on that later. So why? And one of the main things people say when you ask, why should we read? Literacy. You should know how to read. If you want to make it in life, you need to be literate. But what does that really mean? It kind of means you need to have a basic understanding of some words. And while that is an important part of why you should read, it is a scunch, a little teeny tip of why you read and what reading brings for you. And I have 5 reasons that we should read. And the first one is that it expands knowledge. And this goes for any type of book. Whether you are reading a romance novel or a memoir or a business text, it expands knowledge. This is an all-adult room, right? Hello? Response? Yes? Only adults here. We don't.
Yeah, but we do have a key club here, so that is a younger age. But the majority are, yes.
That's why I'm asking, because I know sometimes back in the day, key clubbers were sometimes allowed into Kiwanis meetings. Okay.
Yes, they are.
It is important for me to know that so I can self-censor. All right, awesome. So it's when I was growing up, high school, love book like crazy. So much of my vocabulary was built from that. There were a lot of, I mean, it's a very specific vocabulary, you know, they like to say things like her wanton heart, you know, all of those things. And I remember it's like, it's where I learned the word fathom. And when I understood the meaning of the word fathom, it's like, and realized it was used to measure depths of the sea, I was like, huh, funny place to meet that. So any type of book you are reading expands your knowledge, whether it is your vocabulary, whether it is the world that it is introducing you to, the types of people, it is introducing you to the jobs that people do. All kinds of books expand knowledge. And that is important to know. And you learn more because books, reading exercises the brain. And this is why, while I'm not opposed to screen time, I think it is important for you to mix the two, right? The thing is, we know, what was that song say? Fit. It's the same thing for our minds as our bodies. We need our minds to grow. We need to learn. We need them. And as we get older, we need to build in new knowledge to increase recall. And reading helps with that. Because, and why is reading different from just watching on the screen? Why is reading a book more actively engaging than watching a movie? And trust me, I love to watch movies. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a screenwriter. But why is it also important to read? Because when you are watching television or YouTube or wherever you consume your movies these days, because I'll tell you, I do not own a television, have not owned a television since Hurricane Dean, and that was a minute and a half ago. I do all of my consuming either outside of the house or on the computer, right? So wherever it is you consume your screen time. Why is it important for you to read? Because consuming from the screen is passive, especially when it is visually stimulating. It's one of the things that social media loves now, right? That instant gratification, that hit of dopamine that keeps you scrolling. It is why if you let yourself get into the Instagram, and even some of us who only go there for work, find ourselves, we went to check how our business was doing. 15 minutes later, we are still scrolling through some reels and we do not know how we got there. So it keeps us, just going through. Your brain gets a hit of dopamine, you laugh or you listen to something, but your brain is passive. When you read, you have to literally make meaning of what you see. You have to engage with the words. One of the things they said is that words are symbols. They are not signs, right? Or that could be the other way around. Don't quote me on that one. It's been a minute since I was in college, but that's it. So for example, if I say to you chair, you will think of a thing with 4 legs, maybe 3 legs, and that is about what we have in common. Your chair could be something plush and made of leather and all of that. Your brain has to populate what chair looks like. So even as simple a word as that, right? When you show me a chair, I don't have to think about what you mean. So it is way more passive. And that's why all kinds of reading brings knowledge, and all kinds of reading exercises the brain, So even books, again, that you just consume for fun. they still exercise the brain because it cannot be passive when you read. It has to actively engage in order to imagine, in order to understand. So we get to 3. It improves your concentration and your ability to focus. One of the things I've discovered about myself is I have what the nice people in foreign would have, and this is somewhat self-described. I could be the kind of child, could have been the kind of child that you said had ADHD, short attention span. I get distracted easily. I was I used to say to my mother, I don't have to worry about friends leading me astray. I do that to myself. I get myself easily distracted. Reading helps you to concentrate and to focus. And that's one of the things they point out. And that's why they say it's especially bad for young children to have too much exposure to screen time, is because it can interfere with their development of cognitive skills. It messes with their attention span. It messes with their memory. It can mess with critical thinking. There are studies that show that some children, when they're very young and they are constantly on the iPad, etc., they develop all kinds of impulse control issues, because while they're on the machine scrolling, watching the animation, whatever, their brain is constantly being exposed to all of these dopamine hits, and therefore they are overstimulated and they're not learning to focus, and they are being trained on instant gratification. You don't get instant gratification with books. You get gratification, but again, you have to work for it. Even with picture books, you still have to work for it, right? And that's why, whether you're young or you're old, reading is fundamental. I'm going to be like a pastor, I'm going to go back to the beginning over and again, call and recall, because I think that is how, we engage. And this, again, is one of the critical things. It helps to build empathy. And I'm not saying that you cannot learn to be empathic from stories you get from screen. You definitely can do that. But again, one of the things that happens through the overstimulation of too much exposure to screen time is that it helps to contribute to anxiety, depression, addictive behaviors, again with the overstimulation, again with the inability to regulate emotions and behavior. And I wasn't able to find the numbers exactly, but they pointed out how problematic, recent studies have shown how problematic social media is, especially to young girls, the ways in which it has raised depression levels, suicide attempts, all of those negative behaviors. You will see, if you are on social media, you'll see every now and then traces will say, I'm taking a mental health break, I'm coming off social media, because the overstimulation. And truth of the matter is, most people don't show when they're upset and then lose on Instagram. Them only show when they win. And so you go on Instagram and it looks like everybody is winning. You are the only one not winning. Everybody is cooking up a storm. They don't show you that, okay, yesterday, and nothing is wrong with mackerel and banana. Yesterday is mackerel and banana they had for dinner. They only show you when they have the oxtail, right? And so that kind of thing impacts how we see ourselves, how we see the world, how we view ourselves, all of that. And therefore, it is critical that we not only consume from the screen, but paper is way more forgiving, right? Not to mention how destructive all of that screen time is to the eyes, right? So it's critical that we engage with stories, not only in film, but also in books, where worlds can be way more nuanced, where people are way more nuanced. And this brings us to my 5th point. I could go on much more with this, but I thought, let me contain it at 5. And I thought that this one is the most important of what I'm looking at. You will notice from the things I've done, Woman Tongue, Pumpkin Belly, Anti-Rotary Festival, I believe in our understanding who we are, and stories teach us who we are. And truthfully, whether it is stories from screen or from books, we should engage with stories who tell us who we are, right? And this is tell us who we are in different ways. Stories that showcase our culture, stories that showcase world culture. And one of the things that is critical is books, because books are not as expensive to create as movies, have been historically more diverse. You can write a book about a small town, about a small things happening, and people will engage with it. But when you are doing movies, they tend to have to be bigger, especially if it is going to be a Hollywood movie. If you're going to spend $100 million on it, you need to be making back $200 million. And therefore, you will find that movies tend to focus more on stereotypes, more focus broadly on what they think is going to sell. God bless Wakanda, because if it were not for Black Panther, a lot of Hollywood would still believe that Black people cannot lead in movies in that way for blockbusters, with the possible exception of Will Smith and Wesley Snipes, and I'm forgetting somebody else, but there's at least one other man there, the three of them, and they were the main ones that Hollywood would showcase. But it wasn't showing us our stories, and that is one of the critical things that books often do. They teach us who we are. And I mean, I thought it was also important to point this out to this kind of group, because I know of some of the work that Kiwanis tends to do, and a lot of times you tend to engage with children, because you are about building the society. You know, it's one of the ways you give back. It's why you are here. You're a social club in the good way of social, not just to socialize, but to improve society. And so children, engaging with children and ensuring that kids have books is something that I know a lot of Kiwanis clubs have done. But one of the things that I know is critical and we often miss is sometimes we think just getting kids books is enough. Or we might think just getting kids, like Jamaican kids, books with Black kids in there is enough. No, we also have to get them books with Jamaican children in there. We have to allow them to see themselves. We have to allow them to understand who they are. We have to allow them to understand where they have come from. It is important for them to know that they are the descendants of Nanny and Buster and Bogle and Marcus and all those other people who have allowed this tiny, tiny, tiny dot to have continental dreams and have the entire world take notice. And if we do not tell them these stories, if we do not teach them these things, how can we complain when they have grown rabid? How can we complain when they don't know themselves? How can we complain when we can see them on the street behaving in the most un-Jamaican way possible? We have failed them. And so that brings me to the second part of what I want to discuss about selecting books for kids and for yourself. And so I get to my second quote. There's no such thing as a child who hates to read. There are only children who have not found the right book. And I say that, I remember my cousin, who was a voracious reader as a teenager, when she was younger, I was trying to get her into books. I tried to get her to read all the books I loved to read as a child. She wouldn't read them. Like, what is wrong with this kid? Why? Who doesn't love Anne of Green Gables? Anne of Green Gables, as far as I am concerned, is the best book for young girls ever written. every girl should read it. Girl wouldn't read. One day, I found her reading my literature book. She was way more interested in history. She wanted to read stories set in history. She wanted to read things like Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, because that appealed to her. And that's why it is critical for us to allow children to read what they love. If your child likes to read comics, let them read comics. I'm not saying you shouldn't check what is in the comic, but comics are good too. If they like to read about boats, get them books with boats in it. If they like to read romance, let them read romance. Again, you want to check what's in it and you want to make sure it is appropriate. But there's, with the exception of Mein Kampf and a few other extremist books, you could almost say there is no such thing as a bad book. But equally important to letting kids read what they love, because that is how you will get them to read, is that they need to see adults reading. It is, and I didn't want to overburden this conversation with quotes, so I didn't use this one. But one of the quotes that I love says approximately that children learn to read on the laps of their parents. And this is critical. If you do not read as a parent, an aunt, an uncle, a goddy, whatever, the child sees this and they assume you just don't want them to have the fun that you are having, because while you are over there laughing and, you know, get laugh a pea soup and do whatever, you said to them, go pick up your book. Reading is not punishment. Reading should never be treated as a form of punishment, as the marker of the end of playtime. All right, fun time done. Lock off the TV and go read a book. That immediately indicates to the child that reading is bad. Reading is boring. Reading is what you do when you are not allowed to have fun. Not if you're reading the right book. And so it is critical that we don't engage in this narrative with our children. That not only do we lead by example, not only do we read ourselves, but that we ensure that when it is book time, they know it is still fun time. Because the beauty of the thing is, and we go back to number one, reading expands knowledge. And this is one of the things that I think is so problematic about our society. And this I promise not to veer off too much, because this is not what this is about. Because we have an exam culture, we currently have all of these parents in grade 5 and 6. And I notice I say it's the parents in grade 5 and 6 because this PEP exam seems to be more taxing on the parents than the children themselves, right? And so we have and once PEP comes up, because Jamaica is a world where when you hit age 12, your future is determined, because you have to sit an exam which determines the kind of job you can get, the kind of access you can have, the kinds of friends you will meet, how good your school will be, whether or not your school will have a swimming pool, whether or not drama will be on your curriculum, whether or not it will just be, you will just learn trades. And why on earth are we still in a society that pretends as those trades are a bad thing? I know hairdressers that make more money than me. There is nothing wrong with skills, right? We need to break past the dichotomy of white collar versus blue collar. And what being in that society means is that right around that PEP time, parents don't want to hear nothing about them picking and read for fun. At that point, them better be taking up serious book, because the parents know and the children know that this exam will make or break your life. And therefore, they don't have time for the unimportant things, that is reading. And the worst thing is, if we allowed our children to read more from they were younger, they would be better critical thinkers. They would do so much that the PEP exam wants them to do if we embraced more reading from very early ages. And we allowed children to know that it is not punishment. The PEP exam is based off of the Finnish model. And I'll tell you this, maybe you know this already, but in Finland, at the primary school level, they don't do homework. You know why? Because after school is done, children should be allowed to play and read and explore and live so that their brains are sharper and more active when they're in school. And reading is not punishment. And this comes to not just them, but especially you, making the time to read. And I'm not saying you're not busy. I'm supremely busy. I love reading, and I barely have time to read. I know I have to. I now have it in my calendar. Once a day, I must make at least 15 minutes to read. Because if I don't do it, I'm not going to do it. I am running a small business, actually 2 small businesses. I don't have the time. I love reading. I know what it does to my brain. I know how it stimulates me. I know that when I read, I'm a happier person, but I don't have the time. You got to make that money, right? People are depending on you. You have orders to fill. You have books to edit. But you have to make the time. We are busy, but we can make the time. You don't have to read for an hour every day. If you don't have the time, you can make reading a part of your bedtime routine. And it is really good for that because unlike the screen, which stimulates your brain and have you wondering, like, boy, why I can't sleep? Why you can't sleep? Because you've been on Facebook for the last how long? And your brain is fritzing out. Instead, pick up a book. Allow your brain to wind down and relax. You know, unless you're in that moment where it's a really good thriller and you find yourself staying up way too late. Don't do that very often at bedtime, right? But you will also find, even if you stay up reading, you're not as tired as if you stayed up watching TV all night because it's not as damaging on the brain. And that, if I'm not mistaken, is my last point for the evening, because I don't like the silence and I feel like I'm talking to myself. So I really, really want to open up to questions, comments, that kind of thing now. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Tanya. It is our habit to leave questions until the end. So that's not because of you. It's our habit, and we kind of prefer it that way. Fellow Kiwanians and guests, we have just heard something very stimulating. The one I'm going to take away with me is reading is not punishment. And you're so right when you say we tell children to go and read as if the fun is over. And that's so true. That's so true. That's so true. Well, let me open it up, fellow Kiwanians and guests. I mean, I don't know who's going to be first, but I'm sure you have some things that you want to raise with our guest speaker. That's what I'm going to ask you to check the chat for me sometimes, because sometimes I don't monitor it as closely as I should. But please feel free. You can put up your hand if you want. I mean, that's how we prefer it. But if nobody is saying anything, then jump right in. And let me just throw in something in the meantime. That comment you made about Finland is something I've read before, you know, and I found it very, very interesting. And let me ask you this. You didn't talk about language in the sense of how a lot of Jamaicans speak versus the English language. I don't know if that is something you have ever ventured into, but and I'm not gonna I don't want to take you down that road if you don't want to go, but if you have a comment on that, you know.
That is, I didn't mention language specifically, but that's a part of the critical part about learning who you are. I'm one of those people who I'm an advocate of Jamaican Creole. I don't know if there are any corns here that I will step on. And I think one of the challenges that we have is that we won't admit that for many Jamaicans, English is a second language.
Yes.
And many Jamaicans, the home language they speak now is Jamaican Creole. And it's the majority of its words may come from English, but its grammatical structure is different. It's from different African languages. And so it is not as easy a switch as many of us think. And I think it is important and again, that's why I say reading Jamaican books is important. And not just language, also in food. The book I did, Pumpkin Belly and Other Stories, I deliberately did a thing. The child is eating, and I made sure the child ate ton corn meal, and there are things like brown stew chicken and all of those things in there. Because I remember growing up, you read about scones, and you read about clotted cream, and you read about all of these little things. And I remember I was a full-grown adult when I had a scone with my coffee, and I was like, a rock cake would have been nicer than this. I'm so disappointed. But it's okay for British people to love their scones. How do we celebrate our food? We are losing so much of our gastronomical culture. We're losing so much of it because the only thing we talk about is jerk. And it's almost as though for many of us, the world had to love jerk before many Jamaicans learned that them can love jerk too. And so about jerk and oxtail and ackee. And, that's almood it. But there is a wide variety of it. And when you learn to celebrate yourself, when you learn, say, Anna, chat bad, you chat bad, it's a different language, right? When you learn that, you learn to accept yourself. You learn to be better at being out in the world. You learn to be more confident without aggression. We force Jamaicans to be aggressively confident because so much of how we treat ourselves is about smiling yourself up. So them have to goss up, I have to go on like after more than me. We have to allow ourselves to accept ourselves. That's in our food, that's in our language, that's who we are, that's how we walk, it's how we talk. And that is critical. So I hope I at least half answered.
Yes, you definitely have. Okay, Fela Kiwanis, who's next?
I'm seeing 3 hands up. I'm not sure which one.
I'm not seeing the hands. Why am I not seeing the hands?
Crystal was up first. And then
VP Pearl and Crystal, Heaven.
Okay. You pick the sequence for me, Desmond. I'm not seeing the hands. Go ahead. Okay, I think I know. I think I just realized why I wasn't seeing the hands. Okay, Crystal, go ahead. Go ahead, Crystal.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Okay, quick question for you, Madam. My son is 9, and I would like for him to have less screen time. Can you give me at least 2 ways of how I can go about doing that?
So what does he like to watch?
He likes to watch. What's the name?
Spicy Never Dies.
Be quiet.
I didn't hear him. Is that him?
Spicy Never Dies. He's right next to me.
A great
Spicy
way.
Never Dies and Roblox.
Right. A great way to help to switch him over is one, help find books that are similar to what he watches on TV. It's great for transition. Two, and you will probably need to engage him in that process. One of the I was so like I don't even know where she came from. My niece recently asked, Auntie Tanya, can you read to me? And I was like, all right, let's read to each other. You know, you read a section, he reads a section. You make sure that it's very active. So you do the voices and it becomes a part of how reading time is fun time. So he is getting to play with you. He's getting to be actively engaged when he is reading. But it's also important for the books that you choose to mirror his interests, right? That is a great way to do it.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Tanya. Thank you. Great advice. All right.
Okay, good. Thanks for that. Kiwania's Friends Across Borders is up next with Hans.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Batson-Savage. I listened to your presentation and, you know, I found it very informative. And I want to speak to the matter of special needs children, right? Who you really don't, as a service organization, you wouldn't have the time to do the continuous reading with them. So we have been trying to find a reading program that they can hear via the screen. But can I tell you, it is not such an easy task.
Okay, when you say a reading program, what do you mean?
So like one of the things we found is that you had some children who were in the bed that couldn't move. And so after they would have been fed and cleaned and made to feel fresh, that's it with anybody with them for the day.
Okay.
So we got some big television for the dormitories so that they would have that type of a stimulation, listening to, even if they didn't understand the screen time, but that's something that would be stimulating them. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to find some educational program that we could use via the screen. Because I know you didn't say screen is bad, but you want to have a balance. Right? But we're not able to locate that. So I just thought I'd throw it out there at you if something is in your space that you can look at and give me some information. And I did give you my number. So if it's going to be a long question, because I see 3 others lined up behind me,
right?
We could take it after that.
So one of the things I don't straight have an answer for that, but it is a related problem that we have been concerned with the Binding Books. COVID lasted like 10 years, so I'm losing track of time. But I think in 2021, we published a book for children called A Different Me, A Better You. And what it is, it's 5 short stories, all about children with different disabilities. Because the author of the book has worked a lot in the disability space. And although we published it as a traditional book, one of the things that she always wanted was for there to be an ebook version, so that a blind child could use a screen reader and it be read out loud. And also recently.
Sorry. Please, I'm going to ask everybody, if you are not speaking to the presenter, please close your mic. And if your hand is up and you are next in line, then you can unmute when it's time for you. But please, I need all mics to be closed if you're not engaging with the speaker. Thank you. Continue, please.
No worries. Yes, and so we also recently did that as an audiobook. So it mightn't be, and we have, so it's we have another Jamaican children's book that we'll be releasing as an audiobook in the next few weeks. It should be out by Independence, given the time it takes to get the process completed. So that mightn't be educational material per se, but it is reading material, and it is a great way that they can be engaged with. And we have found it has been the book, especially A Different Me, A Better You, has been endorsed by the head of the I forget the Association for People with Disabilities. One, because it celebrates children with disabilities, and two, because we're trying to get it in all those multiple formats. And so that kind of looking for audiobooks for children might be a way you can do that. So you can plug that in to the process. You know, and if I come across any other programs, because I'm aware that other people are developing things, I'd be happy to share it, you know. But that is looking out for audiobooks and ebooks is a great way for you to do that. Yeah. All right. I'm not.
Yes, thank you. Okay, Earl is up. DP Earl is up next.
Mine is not so intriguing, except to say that I was quite surprised when you, Ms. Baxter, said that you are for the Jamaican Creole, because your whole presentation was done exactly how very well speaking people do, but it seems that if we all relax in the informal setting, but you did so well, I'm surprised that you endorsed the Creole.
You know,
but
I will.
Part of my comment anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted, in the introduction, I mentioned the title of the book, Pumpkin Belly, and I just wanted to know if I have to read the book first, or you could tell me, really, is it, what does it say? Oh, water make it way to pumpkin belly?
How water walk go pumpkin belly?
Oh, it's really that? Yeah.
Yeah. So the title, yeah, that's what the song says.
Yes.
And because that is it's one of those you know, it's interesting in Jamaican culture, we have parents have a lot of ways of threatening you with death that you don't really realize is a threat to death when you're a child. So when you're gonna tell you, if I lick you, find out the water walk go pumpkin belly.
Oh,
it is a threat of death, because you are going to go on the other side of the veil and learn all the mysteries of life. And that is how you will learn how that happens. But in the book, it's not a threat of death. It uses a bit of magic and fantasy, and so it builds on that idiomatic phrasing, and the boy finds out how water gets into the belly of a pumpkin. So yeah.
I must close with this little anecdote that, as you said, water get into pumpkin belly. I remember once, years ago, I said to a schoolmate of mine, I wonder how dirt gets into those light globes. And hear what he said? Yes, just how I always wonder how water get into coconut. I've never forgot that.
Okay, different process. All right, Newton, your time next. Thank you, Earl. P. Newton.
Sorry, hi, are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you now, yes.
Thank you. I'm driving, so it took a little doing to unmute. All right, thank you, great presentation. My question was partially addressed, but what I want to know is, how do you compare reading a book with audio, with listening to an audiobook? And I ask specifically because these days I find that I listen more to audiobooks than to reading the traditional book. However, I find that I enjoy reading the traditional book and I retain it more than when I'm dealing with the audiobook. So how do they compare in terms of brain stimulation and so on? That's my question.
So in fairness, listening to an audiobook, even though it is considered reading, is closer to watching the movie version than reading the book. For precisely the same thing. It's you still have a certain amount of brain stimulation, and nobody has done the study yet, so there's no scientific backing. But if you understand the process, so it does a certain amount of because you're not being visually stimulated, there is still a certain amount of way you have to imagine and engage with the author, right? With what is being said, the narrator, whichever. But it is not as engaging as when, in terms of mentally stimulating, as when you read. And the same if you are not one of those persons with brilliant memory, it is easy. Reading the work you will retain more of the information than if you listen to it by audio. However, the reason audio is so popular, and I have no issues with it, is because you can get to consume a lot more, because you can do it while you're driving, you can do it while you're doing the laundry. If you try to read a traditional paper book while you're doing the laundry, it might drop in the washing machine, and it's problematic. So I can fully understand. There is a reason for it. And so again, it's all about the book. And for me, it's like there's some books that I want to have a physical version of it. I want to have a physical paper version. That's an ebook. Some books, I don't mind having the ebook. I don't mind having the audiobook. If I can afford it, I have both, right? But yeah, you're right. It's great to do audio because of the ways in which it can just fit into life better. And they do actually have found that more men are engaging.
Okay, I'm not sure if we lost Tanya.
But I got the answer to
you
my
got the
question.
answer. Okay.
And it kind of meshed with what I thought.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
we're gonna have to wrap, but I'm hoping Tanya will come back in shortly. We can give her a little time. iPhone 6, she should get ready, but let's see if we get Tanya back on. I can still see her listed, so maybe it's just temporary. Tanya, are you back on? Oh, maybe you might be muted. I think you might be muted. So you can try again.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, great.
I'm having to do a little hot spotting from my phone because electricity just went. There was a truck hit a wire earlier this afternoon, and I think it's just finally taken effect.
But glad to see that you were back on. Okay, we have one more question and then we're gonna have to wrap. iPhone 6 or 8, I'm not sure which one. Yes, I think it's 8. Go ahead.
Yes. Good evening again. This is Ingrid from Kiwanis of Montego Bay. It's not a question, it's just a suggestion. Just a suggestion pertaining to the lady that was asking about the special needs child. Actually, I'm in the States right now, and I'm not sure. Yes, I know it can happen. The thing my student as a teacher, I use it with them. So what I do, I create a classroom and I assign books. And the books there, when you touch on the words, it actually says. So it's also teaching them to read. It's also identifying the words. So they actually know the words, they're seeing it. And they're also audiobooks, because at one particular time, I had a blind child in my class. And what I did, I usually assigned the audiobooks for her because there wasn't any Braille. So what I do, I assign the books because they have to, in my class, they have to read at least 3 books per day. I assign more than 3 books, but they have to read at least 3 books. That's one of my stations because I have stations set up. So Epic is one of those stations that that they have to go to. And I have a friend, another teacher friend, what she did, she add her nephew that is in Jamaica to her classroom so he can also access You just go on, type in the code, and the books are assigned there. So she can check it out. It's called Epic Book, what she has to do, or she could tell the child's teacher to create an account, just create a classroom and just add the students to it and give them the code, and they will just go in and they will see the books that are assigned. And you have different joiners there as well, all different kind of joiners there. But I know that they can access it in Jamaica because my friend's nephew, he is in our classroom and he can also access the book as well. So that's my little 2 cents on the books that they can also read and they can also listen to. So check it out. It's called Epic Books. And for those, it's not only for special needs, but it's also for every needs. So, and there are lots of interesting books there. Although it's an American thing, but there are books there that children will enjoy reading. Whether it's you touch the words and it say it out loud, or you assign the audio ones as well. So it's called Epic Books. So you can also, and I'm just throwing out there, you can also suggest it to your students, your child's teacher. If you have small students in school, like primary school, you can also suggest it to them. They can create a classroom. It's called Epic Book. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I think there are no more hands up, and I think it's about time that we could move to our vote of thanks. I really thank you. Let me ask Kiwani and Andy Baptiste, who is gonna do the vote of thanks. Andy, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Miss Tanya Batson-Savage. We really appreciate you sharing with us tonight. It has been very informative, and I'm sure that everybody has been enlightened by tonight's presentation. We feel even more privileged knowing that you've had limitations with the electricity. Nevertheless, you ensure that you were here, and we're very grateful, very, very, very grateful that you were able to bring tonight's presentation. And we thank you very much for sharing with us tonight.
Okay. Oh, let me just say one thing. I normally do a certificate of appreciation, but I must admit, because I've been ill. Let's put it that way. I wasn't able to do it, but I will still present it or prepare it, and we'll arrange to get it to you. But I just wasn't able to do it for this evening. But let me put in my thanks again, Tanya. It was our pleasure. Thank you very much.
And thank you all for having me.
Great.
Thank you, DP.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Back to you, President. Back to you, President.
Yeah. Thank you, Tanya. Very interesting, very informative. And thank you again for making that presentation to us. Okay, we move to our Saj. Saj, Zoe, are you on? I noticed you're on, yes. Your time, Saj.
I'm on. I'm trying to unmute. Can you hear me?
We are hearing you. We are hearing you.
Oh, okay. Because it's on my end. It's suggesting I'm muted. Not sure why.
Yes.
It might be.
You're very much on.
Okay. So in the spirit.
We're not hearing you now, though.
Unmute yourself.
Not hearing you now.
Oh, I'm not sure what's happening. The technology is playing tricks. Are we good now?
We're hearing you now.
Okay. So I was saying, in the spirit of reading, I'm going to share with you about a classroom. So this teacher, she had her class, and there's this one student that she just couldn't be bothered with, because as some people would call them, he's the class clown or the troublemaker of the class. But the class clown could not take the know-it-alls. right? And they're always showing off on him. And when the teacher gives them words, they'll always spell them correctly. They always get them right and always make. So today, the lesson was putting words in sentences, right? So he decided that the know-it-alls weren't going to show him up today. So the word was succumb, and his hand was first in the air. And the teacher was a little bit hesitant, but she said, you know what? Every child deserves a chance. So she gave him a chance. And his sentence was, because I had to go to the river this morning, I succumbed late for school. Let's go to the charges. So Secretary DLG Willie, we're gonna give you a charge of $300 for the president's blackout. So it seemed like the president didn't pay his bill this time, so we're gonna give you the charge for the president.
Yes.
We have several charges for irresponsible texting. Kiwani and Warren McDonald deleted their message at 1:06 p.m. On Sunday, Kiwani and Ron at 2:29 p.m. and Kiwani and Eric Saturday 8:54 p.m. All charges of $300 for irresponsible texting. So we take it to a throwback. And DP Earl Spencer for not recognizing himself in the throwback picture. And Rudy is here. And for his deletion at 11:48 a.m., a charge of $300. DP Stuart Spencer for seeing Jack Delissa when no one else did, a charge of $300.
I thought that was a plus.
Not this time.
All right.
And Director David Hall, for the missing certificate, we're going to charge you because it's all about teamwork. And so if your chairman couldn't get it, we're hoping that the director could have done so. So $300 for the missing certificate. Have a good evening, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I saw come me make it sad. Yes. Okay, so we move to notices and announcement and interclubbing opportunities.
Thank you,
Yeah,
President.
Yes.
Thank you, President Junior.
Yes.
A few notices. Just a reminder, fellow Kiwanians, Kiwanis International Convention in Indianapolis later this month from June 21 to 24th. In fact, it will be a hybrid meeting, and if you want to register to view it online, there is a registration fee. On Sunday, July 2, CLE training for the Super 5, 9:30, and the venue is the UCI University on Worthington Avenue. That begins at 9:30. On Thursday, we'll be having a fundraising committee meeting at my house at 6 p.m. to update ourselves on the plans for our fish fry. Speaking of fish fry, this will be held on Friday, June the 30th at 11 Fairway Avenue, Kingston 5, and there will be an after-work line afterwards. For our guests who are online and visiting clubs who wish to attend, just give me a call. The cost of the tickets is $2,000. There's a varied menu, crispy pork, barbecue chicken, and escovitch fish. Just a note that we have so far distributed 1,025 tickets. Our target is 1,200 tickets. We need all hands on deck. I can, looking at the list of our members that attended the meeting this evening, are 20 members, and one thing, they all have tickets. Well done.
Yes.
Now, fellow Kiwanians, in respect to interclubbing opportunities, we have a special invitation to attend Kiwanis Club of New Kingston's meeting, face-to-face meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. topic is the home of a father with guest speaker Mark Rodney, who is the Vice President for Fathers United for Change. Now, you'll note tonight that we have a very strong delegation from Kiwanis Club of New Kingston. That was through DLGE Gerton Hoolman. I have promised Gerton that for every member that comes out tonight from New Kingston, I will reciprocate with a member from Kingston tomorrow. So please, the meeting begins at 6. Please indicate to me tomorrow if you are able to attend. It's a police officers club. I have confirmation from 5 members so far. And if you're unable to attend face-to-face, there is a link which I will circulate in the morning, but I prefer us to go there in person to attend their Father's Day meeting. President Junior, those are all the announcements for now. You may want to invite visiting delegations if they have any announcements, and they could make them now. Thank you.
Thank you, DLG Willie. And I'll now ask whether any other club would like to give up some notices or announcements at this time. Other clubs in the house or online would like to give notices and announcements.
Yes, good night, everyone.
Yes.
Good night. Yes, I am DP Audrey from the Kiwanis Club of Papine. This week we are celebrating our 3rd anniversary, and on Thursday, this Thursday coming at 6 p.m., we will have our quiz competition. It just so happens that the quiz competition falls right in the middle of our anniversary celebration. The flyer for the quiz and the Zoom information was sent to President and Secretary WhatsApp group. Thank you. You're all invited to attend and to participate in the quiz competition. That's this Thursday at 6 p.m. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other announcements?
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, we're hearing you.
This is DP Megan from the Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay. We're inviting you to our special meeting this Thursday, titled Salute to Our Fathers. There's a special meeting for our fathers in Kiwanis, and we are inviting you to join it this Thursday via Zoom at 6 p.m. and we can share the link information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other announcements?
Yes, President Junior.
Yes.
This is Crystal Heaven from the Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay. I want to say a special thank you to the Kiwanis Club of Kingston for supporting our retro party. Thanks for the contribution. We greatly appreciate it. And we're looking forward for a grand time again next year. So make sure you guys come on board. Thank you.
Okay. Announcements? Any other announcements, notices?
President Junior.
Yes,
maybe an opportune time to congratulate DP Audrey from the Papine Club on the achievement of that club at the recent district convention, where they won the inter-clubbing competition for the district. And their secretary won the award of merit, which is given to an outstanding secretary in the district. So I think we should congratulate them.
Okay. Congratulations, DP Audrey. You have been doing well, and we'd like to congratulate you. Okay, any other announcements? Okay, we'll now move to the thought of the week with DP Stewart. DP?
Yes, President Junior.
Yes.
Okay, I have 2 thoughts. The first one says it is dangerous to be right in matters on which the established authorities are wrong.
Yes.
No, I would hope that in 2023, this is not so much a problem, unless you live in certain countries. But this quote came from Voltaire. And in the time when he lived, it was a real problem.
Okay.
So I'm using that quote. And then I have another one, which is, I particularly like it. In fact, I just saw it today. It says, and I'll tell you who said it after.
Okay.
It says, competition will make you believe we are a threat to each other. It's very important to understand we're all merely chasing our own goals and dreams, just in the same arena. And this quote came from Shelley and Fraser Price. And I really love it. And those are my two thoughts, President Junior.
And thank you again, DP Stewart. And as we come to the end of this meeting, I'll ask you all, ladies and gentlemen, to raise our glass to Kiwanis International and Jamaica Land below. This meeting of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston